on a Friday afternoon. Appreciate your time to take a look at the Sage Paperless Construction products today. As you may or may not be aware, these products work with both the Sage 100 and the Sage 300 products in pretty much the exact same way. And we do have a fairly full hour today, so I'm not going to bore you with a lot of stuff about Alliance Solutions Group, and I think most of you know some stuff about Sage already. Handling the presentation today for us will be Vincent Pate, who is with Sage, been with them for about 8 years, and he is going to take us through the paperless environments products for you guys to take a close look at. And during the course of the presentation, you guys may have some questions. There's a questions box in your GoToMeeting dialog window that opens up, usually I think on the right side of your screen. Feel free to ask any questions as we go along. We're going to hold those questions till toward the end of the presentation, the webinar, and at that point I'll pass those questions on to Vincent for answers. So at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Vincent. Take it away, Vince.
Oh, thank you very much, John. So let's go ahead and pull up a slide here as soon as I can click my button. So Sage Paperless Construction, what is it? It is a content management and workflow automation solution that integrates with both Sage 100 Contractor and Sage 300 Construction and Real Estate. The solution centralizes and electronically stores your vital business and project-related information in one secure location for fast, easy, multi-user access and distribution. We have, along with the Sage Paperless Construction, we're going to have the benefits of being able to save yourself some time, eliminates the paper chase and looking for lost or misplaced files, going through different filing cabinets, trying to remember where things might have been filed at. It improves productivity by providing easier access to your company and project-related documents that you might want to store, accounts payable, human resources, all the type of documents can be easily and efficiently accessed, as well as true invoice approval process through the system to make sure the proper people are taking a look at the invoices, making sure that they're approved, and you're not losing any potential discounts because things have just kind of fell into oblivion. We can leverage our system to find that information. We reduce paperwork and administrative overhead because as an electronic-based storage system for documents, you don't have to have a physical location to store any of that information, and finding it's as simple as typing into a search or going through a screen and clicking a button. And of course, improve relationships with subcontractors or vendors as we can more timely get those payments out of those invoices through this process here. Now, I'll do this presentation as a couple of, by talking through a couple scenarios here, where I will kind of throw off a couple scenarios that a company might have, and then I'll show you the product and how it can help with those scenarios. So the first one we run into, a very common one, is a company's biggest paper nightmare is their accounts payable department. Invoices are received at job sites, remote offices, or at the main office, and from there invoices are sorted and distributed to various managers for coding and approval. Invoices for remote sites and offices are Fed expressed to the sites on a weekly basis, but there are no controls over the paperwork, and no one knows what invoices are outstanding, waited to be coded and returned at any given point. Vendors constantly have to send in duplicate invoices, which cause duplicate payments. Slow turnaround times can even cost the company thousands of dollars per month in missed discount opportunities, and vendors could potentially be cutting jobs off from delivery of needed building material due to non-payment. Now, the controller of this company could be looking for a system that can not only bring order to the invoice chaos that is currently happening, but also find a way to provide a way for his normally overhead-only department to bring in value to the company by ensuring that all discounts are taken care of. Timely payment of their invoices may also help the company negotiate better payment terms with their vendors and ensure that their jobs are delivered to the building material needed in a timely manner. And Sage Paperless Construction can help solve these problems. Let me actually pull it up here, and we'll talk through our accounts payable process with this here. Now, before we do, a couple quick catching everyone up to speed on this product. It is a module that integrates with either Sage 100 or Sage 300 Contractor. It does run separately outside of it, as we can see here, but we have integration points on both that product and on this one to make sure everything's fully connected together. Now, as we do get papers coming into the office, either being FedEx to us, they're handed to us in person, coming into another office, and it's emailed over, the idea being we can then take all those documents and store them within here in a single location. If I have a scanner plugged in that I'm ready to scan from, I can click this button here and start bringing files in from a scanner, and they don't have to be in any particular order. I can then split them off and send them to the appropriate queues to be worked on. Or if I maybe have a folder or an email that contains all the files that I might be using, I can click and drag from here into the system. In fact, that's what I'm going to do here for this accounts payable. I can then pull in an invoice and say push this to a queue, where I can then take this invoice that I've just brought in and put it into my accounts payable queue to be worked on. And we'll go ahead and pull that up right now. So as the invoices come in, we'll create a nice queue here for your AP processors to enter in their information for the invoices. I can flip between them real quickly, so if I know one of the latest ones that just came in is really important, I need to skip to that one, I can quickly click the buttons to kind of pop over to the appropriate invoice to work on, or I can just go from top to bottom and start cleaning house, so to speak, get these invoices entered in. So I'll go ahead and enter my invoice here, and I'll pick my vendor, and this vendor is a straight lookup into my Sage 100 or Sage 300 product, and I can do sorts by vendor name, phone number, at mailing address, do a search for it, whatever direction I'm going to look for to make sure I'm getting the proper vendor attached to this invoice. I'm actually going to pick my vendor 100, and with vendor 100, I'm actually out of compliance, so I don't lose any of my compliance features that are in Sage 300 or 100. The system will actually use those same ones to tell me I have some things that are out of compliance, and do I want to continue anyways? Well, yes, I do. I'm in the sample data. I'm okay with this vendor being out of compliance. When I type in my invoice number, if the invoice already exists in either system, it'll flag me and tell me, hey, this already exists for this vendor, and this will stop me from doing duplicate invoices. So if this was something where I am typing in, I can then go into the system and say, why do I have this duplicate? Did this come through somewhere else? And I can take action on that part. I'll go ahead and put in a invoice number and kind of move forward here and put in my invoice date, and it'll pull in my due dates and my discount dates just as they would from Sage 300 or 100 based on your vendor that you have selected. I'll go ahead and pick my vendor, my invoice total, about 12,000 we'll say here, and I'll pick my lines. Now you could do it to any type of line, it's just an expense, job, piece of equipment, purchase order, or subcontract. If I pick a purchase order, or subcontract for that matter, it'll then allow me to do a quick lookup into a system to see all my POs for that vendor. And this is a live lookup. So if I just had to yell across the office to have somebody enter this PO for me, it'll be here as soon as they hit save. I can select that PO, and it'll give me all the information on it for which ones do I want to receive. I can check both items. I can say I'm going to go ahead and receive one of this and 2 of this, and add this to my invoice. So now this purchase order has been added, and I can click the Documents button down below as well, so I can see if there's any related purchase orders or receiving tickets or anything else that might have been in the system that I can then pull forward. So in here I can see that this purchase order actually has an invoice or a purchase order that's been approved, and this is now attached to my route. So when I send this over to my project managers, they'll see the PO on here, and apparently a change order that I also tagged to this as well. So anything that's related to this invoice will follow along with it on its route to the different project managers. Now I might also want to add another line here for a job. So I can pick my job, number 3001, and I don't necessarily need a cost code or category yet, because as an AP processor, that's not something I might have right off the top of my head. It's something the project manager can enter onto their screen later, and I can put that in there, as well as whatever account that is appropriate for it. Let's go ahead and remove the purchase order from here, and we'll just do this one line for the job. So as I pick this job and what account is appropriate for it, in this case it's going to be my, say it's a miscellaneous expense, I can go ahead and route this off. Now my system will look at my, I currently have set up on this job to send over it automatically to the project manager and his supervisor. So by automated rules, my project manager or their supervisors or anyone else that you want to put on an automated rule will get this invoice sent to them. I can change this if I need to on the fly. So if I want to add someone else, maybe there's an owner that wants to take a look at this as well, there's a special circumstance, I can add a reviewer or remove a reviewer as necessary. I can set up auto rules based on the type of line, be it purchase order, subcontract, job, expense, or even dollar figures. I want this person to look at anything over $10,000. This can all be set up automated, and I don't have to do anything from here other than hit the route button, and it sends it on its way. Now, as the AP processor, it's going to pop over to my next invoice, ready to go down the list. I can pick that appropriate vendor, its appropriate invoice number, description, and go forward and just continue on throughout my day, entering in all the appropriate information for my different invoices as they come through. So in here, I'll just add one more invoice that's got this job on it, and maybe this one I know the cost code and category, and I can even verify if this is if this has been budgeted properly. So I can see here the budget, what's in my Sage 300 or 100, and what's in my Sage Paperless that's unapproved, and what my variance is. So I can make sure I'm not going over budget on my jobs. And again, I'll just go ahead and route this one off as well and send that invoice on its way. Now this one has it, just this job's project manager going to it. And this is what the AP processor would do throughout the day. They would enter through all their invoices, get this list down to what they're finished with it, and then they could track their work through this work in progress here to see anything that they started but never completed, everything that's been approved, and I can see who approved them and when, or anything that's pending. So if I want to know about that invoice I just entered, I can click on it here, see it's waiting for Jim to approve this and what the status is, and so I can follow up on them if I need to. Of course, we can also have the system send Jim an email on a schedule, maybe every day, twice a day, say, here's everything that you need to get approved. And we want to get this stuff approved as quickly as possible so that they can get those discounts in the system, and we don't want to lose any of that. At the next level, the project managers would be typically in this review screen here, where they can see everything that's currently pending for themselves. I'm actually going to log in as Jim here, as I know I've sent him some stuff to work on. And I can see everything that's pending, and it's going to be color-coded based on blue, it still has time to work on, or red, it's something that he needs to look at now because this is overdue. I also can see that I have one invoice on hold. Perhaps I'm waiting on something, and in fact I can see my notes down here says the wrong line items were on this invoice, so we're waiting on that reply back. If I need to see the invoice, I can view the invoice. I can also click a button and view all the related documents as well right from here, as well as all the distribution lines down below. If I need to edit the invoice and I have security access to do so, I can as well. The invoice I just sent off here, I believe it's this one right here, I can see I'm the project manager for this job. I can see the cost code and category. I can verify this is all correct. And if this is all something I think is all good, I can go ahead and approve this, and it sends it on its way to either the next person in the route, or if I was the last person, it's now available to export off to my Sage backend office product. I have my other invoice here, such as this test one that I've sent to myself. Actually, the one I want to pull up here is probably this one here. So this is the other one that I had sent over, and I can see that this job line here went to Northwest Concrete. I have my job here, but the cost code and category are missing because they didn't know what that was. Now, as a project manager, maybe in the past, I used to stick sticky notes on this paper so I can know, tell myself where things are sitting at, and I can still do that today. So any annotations that I might have done in the past on paper, I can do here. Job is good, cost code is whatever that might be. I can stick that sticky note here, or I could just do the changes on the invoice. I can also stamp it, approved, or any other type of stamp. In fact, I even have a custom signature stamp as well. So if maybe you have an owner that likes to put a signature on things that come through, you can customize that and put that on here along with it. And we have highlighters and redactors as well, so we can keep track of any type of annotations to these invoices as they come through. I can reject this or put it on hold, and in doing either of those two actions, it's going to require me to give a reason why. Because if I reject this back to the AP processor, they're going to want to know why it was rejected, so they don't just send it right back over to me. Same thing if I put it on hold, I want to know why it's put on hold so that when it comes off hold, I can make sure that those reasons have all been satisfied. And lastly, before I approve this, I can also route this off to somebody else on the fly as well. So coming into this, if I know, hey, there's another project manager that wants to take a look at this, maybe he's apprenticing me and I want him to have his look at it, or an owner, I can route it to that person on the fly as need be. I'm going to go ahead and approve this here. And in that case, it's telling me my cost code is blank. I can't approve something that doesn't have the valid information at this point. So I'll go ahead and put in my cost code, put in my category, verify that all the information is accurate with my budgeted and due dates. In this case, it's over budget, but again, with sample data, I'll take that risk. I'll approve this here, and it'll go off to the next person, which, if I remember correctly, it would have been Theodore in this particular case, and here it is. And I had him set up as an approver as well. Now, he could reject it and go back, and we'll keep the approval level of Jim so that if it does get rejected for a reason that doesn't affect Jim, maybe they had different lines of the same invoice they were looking at, Jim wouldn't have to reapprove his one line. Things like that we can handle on here. And I'll approve it and move that forward. At the end of the day, all these approvals will then allow me to come in and export out this invoice to my Sage backend office. So I can have my list of all my invoices here to export, and I can select those that I need to send back, maybe a couple of these, maybe all of them. Whichever invoices I want to send back into Sage 300, I will select. And it may ask me, date and period for this. And I believe all my stuff's back in 2013. So I'll throw it back there. And this will then send this a 300 or Sage 100 contractor with all the appropriate information with it. It'll also give me a nice report that I can save so I know exactly when there. And let's go ahead and look at the next scenario while this is sending those invoices over here. Since my PowerPoint allows me to move forward here. There it is. Okay. So the next scenario I have is, oh, sorry about that. The next scenario I have is the company has a traditional filing cabinet storage system for all their paper documents, as well as traditional folder hierarchy for storing electronic documents on a drive of their network. Copies of documents are stored in multiple places, user network folders, laptop drives, DVDs, desktop drawers, truck seats, and many times important documents cannot be found or lost due to a person leaving the company, and no one knows where they kept their documents. The CEO of this company is looking for a way to safeguard the documents that are important to his company, and also like to add efficiency to the office's work processes by preventing duplication of documents and making it easier and faster to find the documents they need. And Sage Paperless can help with this need as well. So once we have all the documents stored into the system, or we have our AP process going, we also can store other types of documents as well. So as we get maybe an RFI for a job, and I can come in here and open up my RFI that I have selected here, I can index this into the system, and I believe I put that under project management. And I actually didn't create an RFI group, but that's fine. for my Sage 300. I believe I've created one for my Sage 100 contractor database, so I'll put it into there. And I can tag this over to the job number that is appropriate, and I can do look up right here to my job. This might be going to my trap and motel, and my RFI number happens to be 1 in this case, and my subject line is underground storage. Whatever I put in as this information is how I can then get information back out of the system. So I can then index this RFI into the system, and yes, it's asking me to switch over to my 100 contractor vault, as that's where I put it into. And now I have that stored in here. I can also do the same thing for purchase orders or subcontracts, or any type of document that I might want. These are completely customizable, and I can create my own index values as well to go along with it. We also have what we call a backfill. So if I pick a purchase order in the system, and I can see my different POs in here, and I select one of these, it'll actually call back to my Sage database and bring in the job, job name, PO date, AP name, and number. And we also could set up backfills for other things as well, but in this particular case, it's bringing over this information. So as this is the typical relevant information I need for this purchase order, actually, we'll pretend this is a purchase order. Let's redact that. I can go ahead and index this and put that right into the system without having to worry about the filling it in manually. It's all there automatically. Let's switch back over to my Sage 300 database and say we need to do a search and pull in what we want to find. We have several ways of searching for documents. Right within Sage Paperless Construction, we have the search utility. Now here I can pick what type of document type I want to look for or category. So if I want to see just AP invoices, I could select this. Maybe if I want to see all of them, I can just hit the search button, see them all, sort them by date, description, what have you. Or maybe all I care about is I want to see every document in my system that's for a particular job. So as a project manager, I might come in here, pull up my job number 3001, and say, show me everything related to that job. I can sort by document type. I can see all my AP invoices, receiving tickets, contracts, field POs, purchase orders. I can drill down to any of them. If I double-click, it'll bring it up here, and I can see any of the annotations that I may have put on them. I can also take this information, and if I need to get this off to a particular person, I can select it all, or just the documents I need, and I can email or print these or transfer them to someone within the system here itself. This is a great way as a project manager. If I'm about to leave and go work on the field, I can email myself the documents that are necessary for me to access and have access to them over there. I also have the ability to do a browser search, which is completely customizable per user. And this allows you to create different trees, such as if you were in Windows and you have different folder structures, but these are all dynamic in that I have maybe an accounts payable tree that will then show me everything that's related to accounts payable, but then broken down underneath there, here's all my purchase orders or AP invoices, or even further, all my AP invoices for this job number. I can go the other route. I can start with the job number, so show me everything in the system related to this job, and then break it down. That's also a purchase order or receiving ticket, or an AP invoice that's for vendor number 100. And we can completely customize these per user, so project managers can have all their jobs on there broken down however they wish, maybe by date range, maybe by type. All that information is something we can create. Another scenario we have is that a project manager is wary of introducing an electronic document management system because other systems he has seen before have made it hard to find the documents they need. Now, we did just talk a bit about the documents, but we're going to go in a little bit more depth in this scenario here. But in his old job, the project manager had a network folder structure where they kept all their paperwork by job, and they also like to use the paperclip within their back office Sage product to see the attached spreadsheets, job photos, and other electronic documents. And when they visit the job sites, they simply grab the folder of paperwork and carry it with them. Sage Paperless Construction has an easy-to-use browser search that we had just shown that will allow you to see all the folder structures that you want. But we also have a couple other features that we can leverage as well for this particular scenario. So besides having the browser search, we also can pull what we call CD Plus to grab your documents and bring them with you. CD Plus will allow you to create a distribution, and we can call this whatever we want. In this case, I'm going to say test. And I can do a quick search in here and say, maybe I want everything related to this particular job. So using that same browser function, I grab my job, I select all my documents, and add them to this distribution here. As those come through, I can then, click back on that. Click back onto that other. I have all my documents here. Now what I can do is I can actually stick this all into a particular network location so I can have access to it somewhere else. I can include a viewer as well, which will then give me a light version of Sage Paperless Construction. So when I do open these up, I get all the metadata, all the index values, as well as any annotations and such that I might have with it. That's including the annotations right there. And it'll tell me how much of disk space this is going to take. So this network location very well could be a flash drive, and you just come in the morning, you pop this in, send it to your flash drive. Once this is done, you grab that out and you take it off to the office or to the field where you can plug it into your laptop and have full access to all these files for you. That's what the CD Plus will give you. Oh, I left some of those windows open from earlier. We can do the same thing without a viewer as well if you just wanted the raw files to have access to. And it'll preserve them in their native formats, or you can have them switch over to your preferred method, TIFF or PDF, whatever is appropriate for you. Now say you're in Sage 100 Contractor or Sage 300 and you want to get to your files pretty quickly. We have access ways as well to get through there. In accounts payable, I have a couple places in here, but also in project management or property management if you're using that particular set. We have attachment lookups throughout this software. And so if I pull up maybe an invoice register here, we have the attachments, the paperclip icon, right here on this vendor on this inquiry. I can click on that and do a quick open search here on this vendor's SPC documents link that we have here. And that'll open up Sage Paperless Construction, and it'll show me all the related documents to this vendor. So right from Sage 300, I was able to click the paperclip icon and get all the information from Paperless about this vendor. I can see all the annotations that I have on them. I can see all the metadata as well. And the metadata for an invoice, such as this one that we're looking at here, will also give me all of the notes and history for when it was approved. So I can see here created by doc route and all my approval information, as well as some other metadata that has gone with this. I can filter this if I only want to see certain types of data as well. And I can also print or email from this screen. I can select all the files I want and get those over to whomever needs them. I also might drill down further into this and select it from an invoice level instead of the vendor, and I can just see that one particular invoice or maybe the POs and subcontracts that are associated with it. So in this case, this one invoice is what comes up because that's all that's tied to that invoice number. We have connections like this all over. In 100 Contractor, it is the same. So if I bring over into my, let's say my jobs, and I can bring up my job number 201. Oh, I'm sorry, that's on a different monitor. Bring up my job 201. I can pull up the paperclip icon and do the same search here and see all my 100 Contractor jobs that are, or files that are associated with job 201 as they are right here. And I can do the same thing from an invoice, a purchase order, subcontract, what have you. Lots of quick ways to get that information from wherever you might be in the world of Sage. Another scenario we might have is a human resources manager company has 3 separate offices and 2 mini warehouses full of files and boxes of personal paperwork, and they must be kept for 10 years or more. And this person has hired a new benefits manager and does not have the office space to put her due to the amount of filing cabinets they have. Well, they have a lot, apparently. In addition, personal paperwork that must be approved by managers, vacation requests, pay increase forms, traditionally been circulated by paper folders delivered to managers by hand. Well, HIPAA regulations require that all HR paperwork be kept under tight security. The HR manager needs a document management system that can scan all of the personal paperwork in for safekeeping, and security must be tight so that no one without the needed security clearance can access those paperwork. It also needs a way to route the personal paperwork to various managers, both manually as well as automatically, as documents are indexed. Now with Sage Paperless Construction, a lot of that security is going to be handled on a document type basis, meaning we can, per document type, set up which users have access to what. So if doing a search here and pulling up on my screen, if we have a document type in Human Resources for I-9, payroll stubs, W-4, we can set it up so that only certain people can have access to these document types. Same thing could be for accounts payable. Perhaps the AP processors don't need to have access to AP checks, so they wouldn't even see this as an option on there. We can set up security in that type of manner, as well as even on the field record level manner. So we could actually get in a little bit deeper here, and on a user, we can assign an employee mapping, or a vendor or a customer ID as well. We can assign a vendor mapping to say, this maps back to my vendor 1001 within my Sage database. And in doing so, as documents are coming through, HR documents in particular is a good use for this, I can only see those documents that are tagged to my employee number, such as payroll stubs are a good example to where I can then put in all my payroll stubs saying which employee this goes to, with that link back to their employee ID, and then each person can then log into the system and only see their employee documents, their stubs. Nobody else's would show up on their list. We can set security up to take care of all that for us. We also might go a step further, and let's just go ahead and pick a document that might want to be held for quite a while. Let's jump over to I-9 form perhaps, and we can set up a retention. So if I wanted to say, this document type, I don't want to be able to delete this file within 10 years. This system can then say, from the date indexed or from the calendar year that we put this into here, this document cannot be deleted within 10 years. And it will then leave it in there and not allow you to take it out. This is great so that you don't accidentally lose any documents that the government says you need to keep on file in case you're ever audited or required to provide those to the particular entity. But we can archive it. And what that means is we take it out of our production box to where things show up on every search and you can find them quickly and easily, and just move them over to an archive searching capability. And that really just cleans things up so that these older documents that we're required to contain don't show up on every search and every time we click a button. They're still in there, we can still find them, but they're not out in our face to where we need to wait for them or wade through them all. We also can route documents as well. So in this scenario, it was talking about a pay increase form. I actually don't have a document for that, but I do have a payroll direct deposit notification, and I'll pretend that's what we're working on here. So as I index this file, and it comes up, I'm going to go ahead and say this is an HR form, and this is a payroll stub, we'll say. I can say the check number is 8908, whatever that might be, and my employee number 1001. It'll then pull up my information from the system because it knows what that employee's first and last name is. And I can put other relevant information as well if I need to track that. Now I can have some automated rules as well for this type of stuff. So anytime a payroll stub comes into the system or an employee request for pay increase, we can have it automatically send those documents to the owner or not owner, to their manager for approval. Or I can do it manually by telling it to route after index, where when I index this, it'll then ask me, what is this? What am I routing this for? And this is for pay increase approval. I can put any notes that I want. No, I've been good. I've been outstanding, however I want to put that, and then who my recipients are. In this case, let's have Jim take a look at this document, and I can add other documents to the list as well. And I can say return to me when completed, or it's for approval. Or if this was just something for an FYI, I want you to take a look at this. I don't care what you do with it after that. I just want to make sure you've seen it. I can turn that off. I can route this over to Jim, and then Jim can see all this stuff here in his document routing. So here's logged into my own. I can see everything that I've sent off. So here's some stuff in route that I've been playing around with, some purchase orders, the one I just sent here as well. I can flip over to Jim's inbox, assuming you have security access to that or you're logged in as Jim. And I can see his inbox and what's waiting for him to approve. So here's a subcontract change order that had been sent to him because we want to make sure that he approves any of these types of documents that come into the system, as he's maybe the project manager for this job. And since we coded it to this job, it has automatically been sent to him. And he can approve it, route it to someone else, or just give a reply back and say, you know, I'm not going to approve this. Here's the reason why. But I can send approve for that. I can go down to my pay increase, and I might put a note here as well. Sounds good, 4%, and then approve that as well. And then these documents are not only stored within our filing cabinet system for everyone to see, but they are also now able to be routed off to different people without having to manually print out the files and hand them to them or email them. It's all handled within a system, and it keeps track of all those notes as things come through. This could be very useful if you happen to route purchase orders. So as we do an AP invoice, and we're creating an invoice in the system here, and I'm just going to real quickly throw a couple. Actually, I probably need to switch my vendor to 100, as that's where my POs are. And I come through on this invoice here, PO route. Just kind of pick some data here to go through. Now, if I add a purchase order to this, and I just select the lines to invoice, I can actually do a doc route right from here and route off the purchase order as a separate entity from the invoice. So if I perhaps have received this PO and it hasn't been put into the system yet, but I've got the invoice started, I can just route that off and have that taken care of for me somewhere else. Let's go ahead and close that here and go to our last scenario that I got here. Now, the lead counsel for the company is working on a large legal claim filed against them, which could cost them millions of dollars if they cannot produce the paperwork needed to substantiate the time and material billings presented for the job they just completed. In the past, paperwork has gone missing or simply can't be found. It has also taken months to photocopy documents and to haul around the trailers and paperwork. The legal aid needs a document management system that can ensure the paperwork is kept under proper security and control, and also be put on hold so it can't be destroyed while a case is active, and provides an easy way to collect and deliver documents needed for the case. We have a retention hold available to us in this system. So if you were in a scenario, and a couple things with time and material billing, before I talk about putting them on hold, if you are a cost-plus or time and material user, many times you have to provide these documents with your billings as well. And again, our search capabilities allow you to do a quick search of all your documents by job and even by cost code as well. So if you need to get a particular cost code out, we have all the invoices are coded to those, we can. I can pull up a job name here and say, show me everything for this job, and I can do it for a date range as well, and add that information. So if I'm ever in this scenario where I need to get out those billings, I can quickly grab them and print them out or email them over along with my billings to the time and material to justify those costs. But if I do need to put something on hold, perhaps there is an audit going on, and for any type of document in the system, I can come into my administration here and go to my document retention hold. Here I can tell it what type of hold is this, legal issue, am I being audited? And I can add my documents to here. I might say, in this case, we really only care about AP invoices or what have you. I can select those, as well as maybe this is in a case where everything for vendor 104 needs to be put on hold. So I got my 3 documents here that I've just searched for. Actually, let's say everything, not just invoices. So I got some of my other documents here. I can select these and put this into this retention hold under whatever code I've given it. Once these documents are put in here, I can hit done. Now if I did a search for these documents, 104, and try to bring any of these up, I can still see the documents and all the information. But down here in the lower left corner, you'll see this red read only. This document cannot be changed. And we can still see them because a lot of this stuff's still relevant for our day-to-day business. We might need to see some of these invoices or POs, receiving tickets, what have you. But we don't want to be able to change them. And so these now documents are in a state to where we can view them, see all the information, but we can't modify them until this audit or legal issue has been taken care of. Once it has, I can flip over here, pull it up, and we can say, okay, let's remove these documents. I can even do a search remove. So if I didn't want to remove everything or manually pick it, I can say, show me everything that is a field PO and remove those, because those documents we don't care about anymore. But I can remove these documents. They're no longer being held, and they now can have full access with them again. Actually, I did leave myself a little bit of time here for some Q&A, more so than I had anticipated. So I'm going to show one last thing within here in terms of our invoices. When you are handling your invoices and you're sending these through, we do have the ability to run reports and gather all the different information about our system through Crystal reports. If you have Crystal, you can create your own reports and put them into the system as well. But our system does have many reports to get a lot of information, such as outstanding invoice aging by processor or by vendor, get you a list of any of your AP flow user accounts, history, audit reports. And then for non-invoice stuff, we can also know what's going on through the document routing system outside of that. We have, so just to let you know, if you ever need any particular reports on the system, we can do that. A couple users I've actually talked to have had some custom reports created for them, maybe on the Sage 300 or the 100 side, where they'll actually look at both the Sage 300 database and the paperless database to give them a job costing report that includes all the information. I'm going to go ahead and let's look at some questions that may have come through here while we're doing our presentation. John or Tim, was there anything that came through that would like me to answer?
Oh, there are a couple things here. There's a question that came up about the difference between the current document management system and the system you're showing today.
And I assume by that they're talking about Sage's DM product, I have to imagine.
Correct, yeah, the DM product, correct.
The major differences are going to be more in just user flow and how you want to use it. The document management system, the Sage document management that's in there, does reside within Sage Desktop and has direct connections over with accounts payable for invoice entry, as well as being able to put in any type of document as we saw today. I think the main differences you're going to get between the two is instead of using the accounts payable screen to enter your invoices, we can enter our invoices in through Paperless, which doesn't use up any licenses of accounts payable, and it doesn't put any invoices into a pending status that might end up having to be voided and recreated. Everything is fully approved by the time they're exported into Sage, so everything that's within Sage right now would be valid and good to go. We also have the attachment lookups on both products, but for document management, that solely resides in project management and in accounts payable, where in Sage Paperless, we can set up attachment links pretty much anywhere. If you're in property management or job cost, PJ, all these places are links that we can pull through on the documents. And searching for documents allows us to get a bit more down in granularity level with some of this information here. But in all, they're both great products, and they both have their reasons why you would look at one versus the other.
Okay. There was a question that just says, how about for equipment cost? And I'm wondering whether it means, are we connecting to equipment cost in some way? This was earlier in the demo when you were showing, I think, some of the connectivity
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull up one of my invoices that I may have started here and just kind of pull from one of those. Not that one. That's a great example that I like to leave in here. So I'm going to look at this invoice. We can add an equipment line onto any invoice, and the equipment line will actually tag back to our equipment, and it'll look into EQ, so I can see here's my piece of equipment, here's my EQ cost code. I can still put it to a job or an extra as needed. But our attachment is when doing an AP invoice, just like you could in accounts payable, put a piece of equipment. We could do the same thing here in Sage Paperless Construction and tie back there. That's a good question.
Yep. Question came up about which version of Sage 300 is required to run this product.
This will work fine on any Sage 300 labeled product. In fact, it'll actually run on the older ones as well, 9.7 or 9.8. But to take advantage of all the functionality that we have within here, you'll want to be on at least version 12 of Sage 300 Construction Real Estate. And on the Sage 100 Contractor side, it'll work on any version of 18.1 or newer. But again, to take advantage of all the features, you'll want to be on 19, any release of 19 to do that.
Okay. A quick question about, is there word search, which would be, is there OCR in the software, I guess?
We do not have any OCR as it is today. It is something development is working on and will be available in the within the year future that we have coming up here. But as it stands today, we are working on it, and it will be available.
There was a question about how you match up delivery tickets with invoices.
Absolutely. That's a good question. When I bring up an invoice, and I'll pick one of these invoices here that I kind of got. You're putting your invoice, you have your vendor on here, you may have your job. If you select a purchase order or subcontract, all that information is tied to the invoice. And we have a Documents button down below that'll retrieve any related documents that it can automatically retrieve. In this case, there were none because there was nothing on here that actually was related to this document I had automatically. However, I did have some POs that were in the system that it has down here that it says, hey, these POs are for this vendor. You haven't specified this PO on this invoice, but they're right here for you to quickly grab and attach to my route along with this. Receiving tickets would be the same manner. So if I have any unattached AP receiving tickets, which I don't have any in my system, unfortunately, but if I had those in here, they would show up right here, and I can attach those along with it. If I needed to be even more granular, I could do a search in my database like that main search screen here and find a specific document and attach it with it. So we do have the ability, and let me bring it back up here, to attach all the related documents to an invoice that it sees. If the PO or subcontract is added, it'll automatically know those ones because they are on there and the information matches. But it'll also show all the related receiving tickets for that vendor, so we can attach those as needed.
Good, good. Quick question, technical question, just how are the documents stored? Are they stored as individual files, or are they stored in a collective database?
They are stored as individual files, typically on the same server that you have your Sage product on as well, although it could be a different server. The idea typically for security reasons is that you would create a folder, a single folder that everything would then be put into on here that is secured down to where only your IT admin has access to that. And for that reason, he could back it up as need be, but no one should be able to access those files outside of Sage Paperless Construction. Sage Paperless Construction would have the security access set up by your IT person through the servers components, so it has access to that location, and we can then access the files through there. But yeah, it would be on the server in a folder location, but it should be securely locked down to where really only the IT person and Paperless should have access to any of those files.
Okay. I'm not sure I understand this question. I vaguely have heard this before. In the invoice image translation of vendor, invoice ID, dollars, etc. I'm not sure what that...
That might be part of the OCR question on how it
Okay.
translates that type of information.
Translates to, yeah, possibly. Okay.
And that is an unknown factor as it is today, but we'll revisit that when that functionality becomes available.
Okay. The question is, an invoice comes in an email. How do you combine that with the Sage paperless system?
Oh, absolutely. That's a good one. Let me actually grab an email here that I have that has a nice little PDF document from a really cool guy sending this over to me. And I can actually take an email that I have. Now I can put the email on here if I wanted to, but I can click and drag right from the email into the system and index it. So if I have any emails that have attachments associated with them, I can click and drag them right over, pick what this is. Maybe this is a purchase order, add my purchase order to it, and just index that file over. So quickly I can grab any file from my emails over here. I can even click and drag the email onto here to save that document as well. We have the ability to grab from any location that you might have a file and just click and drag it into the screen, or we can use the scanner functionality to bring those in there.
Okay. Question about licensing. We won't go through all the pricing here, but there was a question about whether the number of licenses is counted the same way it is with the rest of the Sage products. Is it essentially the question is it concurrent, or is it named licenses?
Absolutely. That's a very good question for most people to ask. It is concurrent licenses, just like the rest of Sage. So as you would only need as many users as would be in at a given time. Most people that I have talked to that are purchasing this typically will pick a number. You know, maybe we have 15 people that need to have access to this at any given at the end of the day, but maybe 5 people will be in at any given time. So we'll get 5 licenses. And if we ever need to up that, it's really simple. We can flip a switch on our side, and within a short time get you that license updated, and your people can then start accessing those extra licenses if need be.
Okay. There was a question about whether you could view images, in this case invoices and purchase orders, via the information assistant, which...
You can. Yes. So same as I showed you with accounts payable on going into an inquiry and drilling down from there, we have the exact same capabilities within Information Assistant. And for a visual reference, our attachment sync here, I can show you within Sage 100 or Sage 300, here are all the places that today we can have those lookups be. So on a vendor level, invoice, equipment, job, properties, RFIs, drawings, meeting minutes. These are all places in which we'll stick a button, basically, on your attachment link to bring up the Sage Paperless Construction. And on the Sage 100 side, here are those locations as well. So you can see it on the customer, job, purchase order, proposal, employee. All that information can quickly bring it up for us. And and anything that brings those up within the corresponding softwares.
Here's a good question. Currently using Sage 300 and Sage HRMS. Does the paperless system integrate these two systems?
Doesn't integrate the two systems, but we can capture all of your different human resources documentation within Sage Paperless. There would be no links to HMRS at this time, but there would be to your payroll or employees in Sage 300 CRE, so you can do that lookup there. But also, we don't necessarily have to have lookups to the particular employees. We can store documents that are unrelated to anything in your Sage product and just use a meta tag data or index value of whatever you want. So if you want to store an HR document and just put the employee's name on there and not and just say this is Vincent Pate's document, and you could type in Vincent Pate, or even create a list that you can choose from so they're always the same, we can do so and take advantage of that. And probably do one more question.
Okay, let me see what I can find here. We'll talk about license fee structures when people reach out to us. Let's see. Here's a good question. Is the paper routing in-house only, or will it email outside of the system?
It will do either. So we can route, I'm sorry, with the routing, let me actually rephrase that. With the routing itself, it is within the software. So in order to access the actual route, either for invoices or for non-invoice items that we're routing, they would need to have access to Sage Paperless Construction to get into those particular screens and see all the data. However, with that in mind, we can email any document within the system quickly and easily with a couple clicks. So if I'm in here looking at Jim's documents here, and this subcontract is for his approval, I might actually sit here and say, you know, I want to approve this. I'm going to add a note that I need Tim to take a look at this, or John. So emailing John this, oh, can't spell, John this document, will approve when he does. And so I'll put that note into the system, and then I can just go ahead and email this image over to John. And once he receives that image and he sends it back to me, I can then come over here and just release this and say, great, I have John also approved. So it doesn't handle it necessarily, but we can email out from this quickly and easily. We can put notes to record what we're doing, and all that information can then flow through at the end of the day and make sure that we're really keeping track of everything we're doing.
Okay.
Excellent questions.
All right.
Oh, Bill, did you have?
There are more questions, but I think we're about running out of time here. So we've got the list of questions that everyone asked. We will be in touch with those who put out questions, and we will certainly get answers to you on those questions. There are a lot of good questions there today. And if you have any additional questions, if we're not in touch with you quick enough, you can contact the Alliance office at 888-559-9540, and we will be back in touch with you very quickly to answer any questions. I do appreciate everybody's time today, and Vincent, appreciate your expertise on this level and on this product, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.